Imagine standing before a structure so precisely engineered that even today, with all our modern technology, we struggle to explain exactly how it was built. 2.3 million blocks, 6 million tons of stone, some blocks weighing up to 80 tons, lifted hundreds of feet into the air, all without wheels, pulleys, or iron tools. The Great Pyramid of Giza was aligned to true north with an error of just 3/60ths of a single degree. For context, that's more accurate than some of our modern buildings constructed with laser-guided equipment. But the pyramids are just the beginning. Hidden beneath Egypt's sands lie artifacts that have confounded engineers, challenged archaeologists, and forced us to ask an uncomfortable question. What if the ancient Egyptians possessed technologies far more sophisticated than we ever imagined? What if, across 5,000 years, entire systems of knowledge simply vanished? The Giza Plateau. For 45 centuries, these monuments have stood as testament to the ambition of the ancient Egyptians. The Great Pyramid, built for Pharaoh Khufu around 2560 BCE, remained the tallest man-made structure on Earth for nearly 4,000 years. Originally standing 481 feet tall, with the base covering 13 acres, an area large enough to contain the cathedrals of Florence, Milan, St. Peter's, and Westminster Abbey combined, the Great Pyramid represents one of the most ambitious construction projects in human history. According to ancient Greek historian Herodotus, who visited Egypt around 450 BCE, local priests told him that construction required approximately 20 years and a workforce that rotated in 3-month shifts. Modern archaeological excavations have revealed the workers' village near Giza, providing invaluable insights into their lives. Contrary to the long-held myth of slave labor, evidence suggests these were skilled workers, artisans, stonemasons, and craftsmen who received medical care, ate well, and were organized into specialized labor groups. Skeletons unearthed at the site reveal fractures that were carefully treated, indicating a level of care for workers' well-being inconsistent with slavery. Their diet was richer in protein than the general population. They were honored laborers, not oppressed masses. But how exactly did they build it? This question has occupied scholars for centuries, and despite extensive study, no definitive consensus exists. What we do know is that the construction techniques evolved over time. Later pyramids were not built the same way as earlier ones. The mainstream archaeological view holds that huge stones were carved from quarries using copper and bronze tools, then dragged and lifted into position. The majority of stone, local limestone, was quarried directly on the Giza Plateau itself. But other materials came from far away. White limestone casing stones were transported from Tura across the Nile. Granite blocks, some weighing up to 80 tons, were brought from Aswan, nearly 600 miles to the south. And in 2024, researchers mapped an extinct branch of the Nile called the Ahramat Branch, which once flowed directly past the Giza monuments, finally explaining how these massive materials were transported. Archaeological sites and ancient papyri show that boatmen used the Nile and artificial waterways to bring materials to Giza, including granite from Aswan quarries, copper cutting tools from Sinai, and timber from Lebanon. Communities across Egypt contributed workers, food, and materials for what became a national project demonstrating pharaonic power. The most widely accepted method for raising the blocks involves ramps. But what kind of ramps? This is where scholarly debate becomes heated. A single straight ramp would have needed to be over a mile long to maintain a manageable slope, requiring perhaps 3 times as much material as the pyramid itself. Evidence for such massive ramps simply doesn't exist at Giza. Wraparound ramps would reduce material needs, but present their own challenges. Turning corners with multi-ton blocks, maintaining structural integrity, and the absence of archaeological evidence for such construction. French architect Jean-Pierre Houdin proposed a revolutionary theory in 2007, an internal spiral ramp. His scheme involves using an external ramp to build the first 30% of the pyramid, with an internal ramp taking stones up beyond that height. The external ramp stones would then be recycled into upper levels, explaining why no evidence of ramps remains. Some thermal scans of the pyramid have revealed anomalies consistent with internal passages, though this theory remains unproven. The Egyptian government has yet to approve destructive surveys that might confirm or refute the hypothesis. But perhaps the most groundbreaking recent discovery challenges everything we thought we knew about Egyptian construction methods. Archaeologists have uncovered an extensive hydraulic system surrounding the Pyramid of Djoser at Saqqara, the world's oldest stone pyramid, predating Giza by roughly a century. This sophisticated water management network suggests the builders possessed advanced engineering knowledge rivaling modern hydraulic principles. Recent excavations identified a colossal stone dam called Gizr el-Mudir, spanning approximately 1,180 feet. This engineering marvel captured seasonal floodwaters, creating an artificial reservoir that could store up to 14 million cubic feet of water. Researchers now theorize that this water system may have been used not merely for drinking or agriculture, but as a construction aid, potentially reducing the need for massive external ramps and significantly lowering labor demands. The Egyptians may have literally floated stones into position. These findings transform our perception of ancient Egyptian society from one of brute force labor to one of technical ingenuity. The builders created sustainable systems that effectively leveraged available resources, demonstrating environmental adaptation previously underappreciated. If the pyramids represent ancient Egypt's most ambitious construction, then perhaps the most mysterious artifacts are among the smallest. They fit in your hands, yet they've confounded modern engineers. Over 40,000 stone vessels have been excavated in Egypt, many from elite tombs at sites like Saqqara's Step Pyramid. Most date to the early dynastic period, around 3000 to 2686 BCE, or even earlier. These containers used for ritual oils and funerary offerings were once thought to be products of painstaking manual labor using simple stone or copper tools. But recent analysis has revealed something extraordinary. Independent researchers using CT scanning and 3D modeling found examples of vases with internal surfaces so symmetrical that some showed shape deviations of less than 1/1000th of an inch. A computational scientist scanned 22 vases and recorded shape errors as small as 15 microns. That's 10 times more precise than modern industrial pottery made on mechanical lathes. The centering error on some vases was below 0.1/1000ths of an inch, essentially below the resolving ability of the analysis methodology used. The famed 19th century archaeologist Sir Flinders Petrie observed this precision over a century ago, writing that the curves of vases are so regular and the polish so fine that it seems as if some mechanical means, such as a rotating appliance, must have been employed. Archaeological evidence tells us the Egyptians used tube drills with copper and sand as an abrasive. To hollow vessels out, an entry hole was made with a tubular copper flywheel drill in combination with loose abrasive powder like quartz sand, which did the actual cutting. Extracted drill cores bear fine, even striations from the abrasives embedded in the copper matrix. The insides of vessels retain concentric drill marks because they were usually not polished afterward. Mainstream Egyptologists emphasize the overlooked capabilities of ancient artisans. Stone vessel production was a high-status craft, and these master craftsmen spent lifetimes perfecting techniques we've lost to history. Contemporary attempts to replicate these vases using only ancient tools have produced results far inferior to the originals. The precision gap remains unexplained. Either the ancients possessed tools we haven't discovered, or they mastered techniques we simply cannot reproduce. If the small vases perplex engineers, then the massive granite boxes of the Serapium leave them utterly baffled. Located northwest of Djoser's step pyramid at Saqqara, the Serapium is a series of underground tunnels discovered in 1850 by French archaeologist Auguste Mariette. After using explosives to access the labyrinth, he found 24 giant granite boxes, each weighing between 70 and 100 tons. The boxes are enormous, 4 meters long, 2.3 meters wide, and 3.3 meters tall. The lids alone weigh 30 tons, made from the same hard stone as the boxes themselves. Engineer Christopher Dunn, author of several books on ancient technology, inspected these boxes with a 6-inch precision straight edge, accurate to 0.0002 inches. His findings were remarkable. The inside surfaces were not only flat when measured vertically and horizontally, but square and parallel to each other. The interior corners have an absurdly small radius of just 4 millimeters. A pencil would fit snugly in the corner, when aesthetically, something much larger would have looked fine. This suggests the precision was functionally required, not decorative. Most boxes were carved from hard rose granite, ranking 6.5 on the Mohs hardness scale, quarried 800 kilometers away in Aswan. Others were made from diorite, even harder at 7 on the scale, from quarries even more distant. One must ask, why not simply use local limestone, which would have been far easier to work? When Dunn asked a modern precision engineering firm if they could replicate one of these boxes from a single block of granite, they said that even with unlimited budget, they would require 6 separate pieces. 6 pieces in our era of diamond-tipped circular saws, yet we're expected to believe the ancients achieved this with copper tools. Intriguingly, only 3 boxes bear hieroglyphic inscriptions, and these appear crudely scratched onto surfaces that demonstrate the builders clearly possessed the capability for far more refined work. This inconsistency has led some researchers to suggest the boxes predate the inscriptions, perhaps by millennia. Mainstream archaeology maintains this was a Serapium, a burial place for the sacred Apis bulls, living incarnations of the god Ptah. The site is dated to around 1300 BCE under Rameses II, though the greater vaults containing the granite boxes are attributed to Psamtik I, around 664 BCE. But questions persist. No bull remains were found in these particular boxes. The precision seems extravagant for animal burial, and the construction methods remain utterly mysterious. While monuments showcase Egyptian engineering prowess, perhaps nothing reveals their intellectual sophistication more than their understanding of the human body. The Edwin Smith Papyrus, purchased in Luxor in 1862, is the oldest known surgical treatise on trauma in history, dating to around 1600 BCE, though likely a copy of an original from around 3000 BCE. This 15-foot scroll represents a watershed moment in medical history. Unlike other Egyptian medical texts, which often blended medicine with magic and religious spells, the Edwin Smith Papyrus presents a remarkably rational and scientific approach. It details 48 cases of injuries, primarily to the head, neck, and upper torso, with systematic descriptions of symptoms, diagnoses, prognoses, and treatments. It contains the first known descriptions of the cranial sutures, the meninges, the membranes surrounding the brain, the external surface of the brain itself, cerebrospinal fluid, and intracranial pulsations. The ancient Egyptians recognized the relationship between brain injuries and bodily effects, including paralysis. The procedures documented demonstrate medical knowledge that, in some cases, surpassed that of the famous Greek physician Hippocrates, who lived 1,000 years later. Treatments include closing wounds with sutures, preventing infection with honey and moldy bread, essentially an ancient antibiotic, and immobilization for head and spinal injuries, still practiced today. The papyrus shows that the heart, vessels, liver, spleen, kidneys, ureters, and bladder were all known to Egyptian physicians, along with the understanding that blood vessels connected to the heart. This sophisticated anatomical knowledge wouldn't be matched in Europe for millennia. Some scholars speculate the original author may have been Imhotep himself, the legendary polymath and vizier to Pharaoh Djoser, who designed the first pyramid. If true, this would mean the world's first recorded architect was also among history's first documented physicians. But Egyptian mastery of the body extended beyond healing the living. They developed equally sophisticated techniques for preserving the dead. The mummification process, developed over millennia, represents an extraordinary understanding of chemistry and biology. Central to this process was natron, a naturally occurring salt mixture harvested from dry lake beds, consisting primarily of sodium carbonate and sodium bicarbonate. The Greek historian Herodotus, visiting Egypt around 450 BCE, documented 3 levels of mummification based on cost. The most expensive began with removing the brain through the nostrils using specialized hooked instruments, a delicate operation that could easily disfigure the face if performed incorrectly. The embalmers then removed organs through an incision on the left side of the abdomen. The stomach, liver, lungs, and intestines were preserved separately in canopic jars. Only the heart was left in place. The Egyptians believed it was the center of intelligence and would be needed in the afterlife. The body was then covered with natron inside and out, where it remained for approximately 40 days. This mineral is strongly hygroscopic. It absorbs water rapidly and essentially mummified the flesh by drawing out all moisture, preventing decomposition. In 1994, Egyptologist Bob Breyer became the first person in 2,000 years to mummify a human cadaver using authentic ancient techniques. His experiment revealed that after just 5 weeks in natron, the body looked remarkably like the ancient mummies we know today, with leathery skin, a beaky nose, and wispy hair. The embalming process itself, not millennia of Egyptian climate, creates the iconic mummy appearance. After cleansing the dried body with oils and fragrant spices, many containing antimicrobial compounds, priests wrapped it in hundreds of yards of linen, placing protective amulets between the layers. The entire process took approximately 70 days, demonstrating both the importance the Egyptians placed on preserving the body and their mastery of the techniques required. The ancient Egyptians were among humanity's first systematic astronomers. Their observations of the heavens influenced everything from their calendar to the precise alignment of their monuments. Stone circles at Nabta Playa in Upper Egypt, dating to the 5th millennium BCE, show the importance of astronomy even in prehistoric times. But it was during the dynastic period that Egyptian astronomy reached extraordinary sophistication. The Great Pyramid of Giza is aligned to true north with near-perfect precision, off by a mere fraction of a degree. This was likely achieved by observing circumpolar stars, particularly Thuban in the constellation Draco, which served as the pole star around 2500 BCE due to Earth's axial precession. To achieve this precision, Egyptians used simple yet ingenious tools. The Merket, an L-shaped sighting instrument combined with a plumb line, allowed astronomers and builders to track stars across a level horizon and determine true north. Evaluation of the Temple of Amun-Re at Karnak has shown that the Great Temple was aligned on the rising midwinter sun. The length of corridors was precisely calculated to limit illumination at other times of year, creating a spectacular phenomenon on the winter solstice. The rising of Sirius, known to the Egyptians as Sopdet, was particularly important. Its heliacal rising, when the star first becomes visible before dawn after months of invisibility, closely corresponded to the annual flooding of the Nile, which was essential for agriculture. This celestial event anchored the entire Egyptian calendar. The Egyptians created one of the earliest and most influential calendars in history, a solar calendar with 365 days that forms the foundation of the calendar we use today. Their year was divided into 3 seasons based on the Nile's cycle. Akhet, the inundation, roughly September to January. Pere, the emergence or growing season, January to May. And Shemu, the harvest, May to September. Each season contained 4 months of 30 days, with 5 additional festival days at year's end. The Egyptians divided the sky into 36 decans, star groups that rose roughly every 10 days. By observing which decans were visible at night, priests could measure the progression of hours. This system led to the concept of dividing night and day, each into 12 hours, the origin of our 24-hour day. The Egyptians also invented water clocks, stone vessels with tiny holes allowing water to drip at constant rates. Marks on collecting vessels indicated the passage of hours. Priests at the Temple of Karnak used water clocks at night to determine proper timing for religious rites. The famous Egyptian obelisks served as giant sundials. By observing how shadows moved throughout the day, the Egyptians determined the longest and shortest days of the year, the solstices, which held both religious and practical significance. Perhaps nowhere is ancient Egyptian astronomical knowledge more dramatically demonstrated than at Abu Simbel in southern Egypt near the Sudanese border. Built by Pharaoh Ramesses II around 1264 BCE, this rock-cut temple features 4 colossal statues of the pharaoh, each towering 66 feet high. The temple was carved directly into a sandstone cliff, its chambers extending 185 feet into the mountain. But the temple's most remarkable feature isn't visible, it's calculated. The entire structure was positioned so that twice each year, the rising sun's rays travel down the entire length of the temple, penetrating the innermost sanctuary. There, 4 statues sit in eternal darkness. Ramesses himself, deified alongside the gods Ra-Harakti, Amun, and Ptah. On February 22nd and October 22nd, believed to mark Ramesses' birthday and coronation, the sunlight illuminates 3 of these statues for approximately 20 minutes. Ptah, god of the underworld and darkness, remains perpetually in shadow. Consider the precision required. Without modern surveying equipment or computer calculations, ancient architects positioned a temple so that for 2 specific mornings each year, out of 365, sunlight would travel nearly 200 feet through precisely aligned chambers to illuminate specific statues while leaving one in darkness. When the Aswan High Dam threatened to submerge Abu Simbel in the 1960s, UNESCO led an international effort to save it. The entire temple was cut into over 1,000 blocks, some weighing 30 tons, and reassembled 213 feet higher and 656 feet inland. Remarkably, engineers managed to preserve the solar alignment with only minor adjustment. Today, the illumination occurs on February 21st and October 21st, just 1 day later than the original dates, shifted by the relocation and the precession of the equinoxes over 33 centuries. The ancient Egyptians didn't just master stone and engineering, they were also sophisticated chemists who created materials that continue to amaze scientists today. Egyptian blue is recognized as the first synthetic pigment in human history. created around 5,000 years ago. It consists of calcium copper silicate, the same composition as the rare mineral cuprorivate, which occurs so rarely in nature that the Egyptians couldn't possibly have collected useful quantities. To create this pigment, the Egyptians combined copper compounds with limestone, silica sand, and an alkali flux, then heated the mixture to between 850 and 950 degrees Celsius. The result was a brilliant, stable blue that wouldn't fade in sunlight or degrade over millennia. Egyptian blue proved remarkably durable. Strong light doesn't influence its color, as evidenced by pigments that have been exposed for thousands of years on monuments in Egypt, yet remain vibrant today. It shows no reaction with other pigments, making it ideal for complex painted scenes. The Egyptians associated blue with the heavens, the Nile, and divinity itself. Gods were painted in blue. Pharaohs wore blue crowns as gods on earth. The color held profound religious significance, representing life, fertility, and rebirth. The precision and relative complexity of producing Egyptian blue suggests the ancient Egyptians' grasp of chemistry was extraordinarily advanced. Certainly, they devoted more effort and skill into making artists' colors than any civilization west of the Nile. For several thousand years afterward, modern scientists have discovered that Egyptian blue has remarkable optical properties. When illuminated with red light, it emits near-infrared radiation, a property now being explored for biomedical imaging, telecommunications technology, and even crime scene investigation. A 5,000-year-old pigment still contributing to cutting-edge science. Related to Egyptian blue but serving different purposes was Egyptian faience, a ceramic and glass hybrid that remains among the most distinctive products of ancient Egyptian craftsmanship. Faience is a non-clay ceramic composed of crushed quartz or sand, with small amounts of lime and alkali, displaying surface vitrification, essentially a glass coating, due to a soda-lime silica glaze, often containing copper pigments. The result is a brilliant blue-green luster that the Egyptians called chinet, meaning brilliant and dazzling. The discovery of faience glazing was likely associated with the copper industry. Bronze scale and corrosion products of copper objects are found in the manufacture of faience pigments. The accident of glazed quartz pebbles forming in copper smelting furnaces may have inspired deliberate experimentation. Faience was used for everything from tiny beads to architectural tiles. It was the most common material for scarabs, amulets, and ushabti figures, the small servant statues placed in tombs. Egyptian artisans developed multiple techniques to achieve the distinctive glazed surface. One method, called efflorescence, involved mixing alkali salts directly into the quartz paste. As the object dried, these salts migrated to the surface and during firing, fused into a glaze. Another technique involved applying a separate glaze mixture before firing, a more controlled but labor-intensive process. The blue-green color held deep symbolic meaning. It represented the waters of the Nile, the blue lotus flower of rebirth, and the concept of new life emerging from chaos. For the Egyptians, faience wasn't merely decorative, it was magical, imbued with protective and regenerative power. Egypt, as Herodotus famously observed, is the gift of the Nile. This single river made civilization possible in the midst of the Sahara, and the Egyptians became masters at controlling its waters. Each year, monsoon rains in the Ethiopian highlands sent floodwaters rushing northward, reaching Egypt in late summer. These floods deposited rich black silt across the valley, creating some of the most fertile agricultural land on earth. The Egyptians called their country Kemet, the Black Land, in contrast to the red desert beyond. To predict and manage these floods, the Egyptians invented the Nilometer, structures designed to measure the river's height. The oldest known nilometer dates to around 3000 BCE. These devices allowed officials to anticipate flood levels, adjust tax assessments based on expected harvests, and prepare for potential droughts or destructive floods. Egyptians didn't simply accept the Nile's gifts passively. They actively engineered the landscape to maximize agricultural productivity. Networks of irrigation canals extended the flood's reach, directing water to fields that wouldn't naturally receive it. Basin irrigation trapped floodwaters behind earthen walls, allowing the silt to settle before draining excess water back to the river. The shutoff, a counterweighted lever system for lifting water, appeared around 1500 BCE and remained in use for millennia. This simple but ingenious device allowed a single farmer to raise hundreds of gallons of water daily from canals to higher fields, extending cultivation beyond the natural flood zone. Archaeological evidence suggests the Egyptians may have developed early canal lock systems to navigate vessels between waterways at different elevations. The Suez region, connecting the Nile to the Red Sea, saw multiple canal projects across Egyptian history, precursors to the modern Suez Canal by over 2,000 years. Perhaps the most ambitious Egyptian hydraulic project transformed an entire region, the Fayum Depression, southwest of modern Cairo. The Fayum is a natural depression in the Libyan desert, connected to the Nile by a channel called the Bahr Yusuf. During prehistoric times, the depression held a large lake. But as climate shifted and the Nile's behavior changed, the area's potential for agriculture became apparent. Beginning in the Middle Kingdom, around 1900 BCE, pharaohs undertook massive projects to control water flow into the Fayum. By building dikes and regulating channels, they could direct floodwaters into the depression for storage, then release them during dry seasons to irrigate crops. The transformation was remarkable. What had been marginal desert land became one of Egypt's most productive agricultural regions. During the Ptolemaic period, Greek engineers further refined these systems, establishing planned settlements and extending cultivation even further. The Fayum project demonstrates sophisticated understanding of hydrology, topography, and long-term resource management. It required coordinating thousands of workers, maintaining infrastructure across generations, and managing a complex system of water rights and agricultural planning. One of ancient Egypt's most persistent mysteries involves something we often take for granted: light. Deep within Egyptian tombs and temples, artists created elaborate paintings and carved intricate hieroglyphics in chambers with no natural light whatsoever. Some passages extend hundreds of feet underground, with ceilings covered in detailed astronomical scenes painted with precise detail. Yet, remarkably, these surfaces show no evidence of soot deposits. If the Egyptians used torches or oil lamps, the obvious ancient light sources, the smoke would have left residue on the ceilings and walls. In many tombs, no such residue exists. Experiments have shown that burning oil lamps in enclosed underground spaces quickly fills them with smoke, making extended work impossible. The oxygen would be consumed rapidly, and the soot accumulation would obscure the very surfaces being decorated. The mainstream explanation suggests the Egyptians used polished copper or bronze mirrors to redirect sunlight deep into tombs. By positioning multiple mirrors, light could theoretically be bounced around corners and down passages. However, practical experiments reveal significant challenges. Each reflection loses substantial light intensity. After just a few bounces, the light becomes too dim for detailed artistic work. Some tomb chambers would have required dozens of precisely aligned mirrors. Some alternative researchers point to reliefs in the Hathor temple at Dendera, which appear to show figures holding large bulb-shaped objects connected to what resembles a cable or cord. They interpret these as evidence of electric lighting. Mainstream Egyptologists firmly reject this interpretation. They explain the imagery as depicting lotus flowers with emerging serpents. a common mythological motif representing creation and the sun god's emergence from the primordial waters. The so-called cables are actually lotus stems and supporting djed pillars. The most likely answer is that Egyptian oil lamps were more sophisticated than we give them credit for. Carefully designed wicks and high-quality oils could minimize smoke production. Work may have proceeded in short sessions with ventilation breaks, and some soot may have been cleaned before tomb sealing. Yet the question lingers. The precision of the work, the depth of the passages, and the absence of visible smoke damage remain difficult to fully explain. Like so much about ancient Egypt, definitive answers remain elusive. While most Egyptian technological achievements date to the pharaonic period, one of the ancient world's most impressive structures was built during the Greek-ruled Ptolemaic era, the Lighthouse of Alexandria. Constructed on the small island of Pharos in Alexandria's harbor around 280 BCE, the lighthouse was commissioned by Ptolemy I and completed under Ptolemy II. It served both practical and propaganda purposes, guiding ships safely into port while proclaiming Egypt's wealth and technical prowess. Ancient sources describe a three-stage structure of remarkable height. The lowest section was a massive square base, approximately 200 feet tall. Above this rose an octagonal middle section, then a cylindrical top housing the beacon itself. Total height estimates range from 330 to 450 feet, rivaling a modern 40-story building. An internal ramp system allowed donkeys to carry fuel to the beacon chamber. The lighthouse required constant feeding, night after night for centuries, consuming vast quantities of wood and oil. This alone represented a massive logistical operation. The beacon itself combined a large fire with polished bronze mirrors to concentrate and direct the light. Ancient accounts claimed ships could see the light from over 30 miles away, an extraordinary range that suggests sophisticated optical engineering. The lighthouse stood for over 1,500 years, surviving multiple earthquakes that progressively damaged it. The final collapse came in the 14th century CE, when the ruined structure was eventually dismantled. Its stones used to build the citadel of Qaitbay, which still stands on the site today. In 1994, underwater archaeologists discovered remains of the lighthouse scattered across Alexandria's harbor floor. Massive stone blocks, colossal statues, and architectural fragments confirmed ancient descriptions and provided new insights into this lost wonder. The Nile was ancient Egypt's highway, and the Egyptians became masterful shipbuilders whose vessels ranged from simple reed boats to massive cargo ships. Early Egyptian boats were made from papyrus reeds, bound together to create surprisingly seaworthy vessels. But as Egyptian civilization grew, so did their maritime ambitions. By the Old Kingdom, Egyptians were building substantial wooden ships, despite Egypt's notorious lack of timber. The most spectacular example is the Khufu ship, discovered in 1954 in a sealed pit beside the Great Pyramid. This cedar vessel, dating to around 2500 BCE, measures 143 feet long, one of the oldest and largest intact ancient ships ever found. The ship's construction reveals sophisticated techniques. Rather than using metal fasteners which would corrode, builders used mortise and tenon joints and lashed planks together with ropes. This flexible construction allowed the hull to flex with waves rather than cracking, a design principle still used in traditional wooden boats. The Khufu ship was dismantled and carefully stored in its pit, apparently for use in the pharaoh's afterlife. Its 1,200 individual pieces were marked with assembly instructions, allowing modern conservators to reconstruct it. Essentially following an instruction manual from 45 centuries ago. By the New Kingdom, Egyptian ships undertook remarkable voyages. Queen Hatshepsut's expedition to the land of Punt around 1470 BCE, involved a fleet carrying hundreds of soldiers and returning laden with exotic goods, incense trees, gold, ivory, and live animals. Egyptian ships featured a distinctive design with a raised bow and stern, a single large sail for traveling south with the prevailing winds, and oars for traveling north with the current. This elegant solution exploited Egypt's unique geography, where wind and water flow in opposite directions. For over 3,000 years, Egyptian civilization flourished, developing technologies and techniques that represented humanity's cutting edge. Then, gradually, much of this knowledge disappeared. The decline came in stages. Persian conquest in 525 BCE began centuries of foreign rule. Alexander the Great's arrival in 332 BCE brought Greek culture that, while fostering some achievements, gradually displaced native traditions. Roman conquest in 30 BCE completed Egypt's transformation into a province of foreign empires. The rise of Christianity led to the closing of ancient temples, the persecution of traditional priests, and the end of hieroglyphic writing. Within a few generations, the ability to read the ancient texts was lost entirely. Islamic conquest in 642 CE brought further cultural transformation. Ancient monuments became quarries. The pyramid's gleaming white limestone casing was stripped to build medieval Cairo. Temples were dismantled for their stone. Mummies were burned as fuel or ground into powder for European medicine and paint pigment. The loss was not merely physical. Knowledge systems that had been transmitted through temple schools and craft guilds were disrupted. When master craftsmen died without training successors, techniques perfected over millennia vanished within a single generation. The rediscovery began slowly. Napoleon's 1801 expedition brought scholars who documented monuments and collected artifacts, including the Rosetta Stone, key to deciphering hieroglyphics. In 1822, Jean-François Champollion finally cracked the hieroglyphic code, allowing ancient Egyptian texts to be read for the first time in over 1,000 years. Suddenly, the ancient Egyptians could speak to us again about their beliefs, their history, and sometimes their technologies. 2 centuries of archaeology have revealed much, but enormous questions remain. We can read what the Egyptians wrote, but they rarely documented their construction techniques. We can examine their artifacts, but reproducing them often proves impossible. Today, researchers employ cutting-edge technology, CT scanning, spectroscopy, 3-dimensional modeling to understand ancient Egyptian achievements. Each study reveals new sophistication, new precision, new mysteries. So what are we to make of the ancient Egyptians and their lost technologies? We've examined pyramids aligned with impossible precision, granite boxes machined to tolerances that challenge modern industry, vases with symmetry that defies explanation, surgical knowledge that preceded European medicine by millennia, astronomical observations encoded in architecture, chemical processes creating materials we still study today. The easy answer is that we simply underestimate what humans can achieve with time, dedication, and ingenuity. The Egyptians had centuries to perfect their techniques, motivated by religious devotion and organized by a powerful state. Perhaps their achievements require no special explanation, just respect for human capability. The harder truth is that we don't fully understand how they did what they did. The gap between their tools, copper, stone, wood, and their achievements, precision in millionths of inches, structures lasting millennia, remains difficult to bridge. Every year, new discoveries emerge from Egypt's sands. In 2023, researchers identified a previously unknown chamber in the Great Pyramid using cosmic ray imaging. The hydraulic systems at Saqqara were only recently understood. The true course of the ancient Nile was mapped just last year. Perhaps the greatest lesson is humility. We live in an age that often assumes our ancestors were primitive, our own era the pinnacle of human achievement. The ancient Egyptians remind us that intelligence, creativity, and technical skill are not modern inventions. They built monuments that have outlasted every civilization since. They developed medical knowledge that saved lives for millennia. They created art that still moves us, architecture that still inspires us, and mysteries that still challenge us. The technologies of ancient Egypt were not lost to time alone. They were lost to cultural disruption, invasion, religious change, and the simple failure to record what masters knew in their hands and minds. In a world where knowledge is increasingly digital, ephemeral, stored in formats that may be unreadable in decades, the Egyptian example carries a warning. 5,000 years from now, will anyone remember how we built our skyscrapers, designed our microchips, or engineered our satellites? Will our achievements endure like the pyramids? Or will future researchers puzzle over our lost technologies, wondering how we did what we did? The ancient Egyptians left us monuments in stone. The question is, what will we leave behind?